All right, we're recording this video for YouTube so that people can see this after the fact. I'm recording this live during our day one, week one stream. And we're going to talk about textbooks for English 1106. As you can see, I have it up here on the screen, suggested texts on our syllabus landing page. And I want to go over this because it says suggested texts. Note that it doesn't say required texts. First that's listed is Elizabeth Losh et al. There's actually a number of authors here, and it's backwards in my camera right now, but it's Understanding Rhetoric, a Graphic Guide to Writing, second edition, for Virginia Tech Composition Program. This is a book, Understanding Rhetoric, that is published by Bedford St. Martin's, that is widely available. But the reason why it says for the Virginia Tech Composition Program is because there's some special material in the front and back, an introductory chapter, some supplementary chapters that are text-based that are specific to our composition program. That's been drafted by our composition chairperson, director, that's the word, our composition director, and some folks on the composition committee. And they are specific to the general curriculum of English 1105 and 1106. Their idea is that this book would be used for both courses. Now, this book is required for us to put on our syllabus. It's also required to be used for our graduate teaching assistants who are teaching these courses. And a number of us are choosing to use this book as central to our courses. I, however, do not like this book. It is written in a graphic novel style. And if anybody knows me, you know I love comics. However, I'm more concerned about spending too much time trying to teach you how to read this book than actually teaching you the content. So I say this is a supplementary book because it is an interesting new way to look at some of these theories, concepts, that might be helpful for you. And I can give you suggested chapters throughout the semester for this book. But I will not be requiring you to read anything out of this book for the entire semester. So if you don't want it, if you haven't bought it yet, don't bother. But it can be helpful if that sounds appealing to you. So I'm going to put this to the side, and I apologize if you've already bought it for 1105, or if you bought it for this semester and already opened it. I am required to put it on my syllabus, and they bulk order the book for all sections of 1105 and 1106. So if you go in the bookstore, you're going to see these massive walls of this book. So I apologize I couldn't get out in front of it before then. So hopefully that hasn't caused too much issue. The other supplementary texts here on the syllabus are there just because I think they're more helpful in terms of resources and handbooks. And I always suggest that students have a good handbook in college, not just for their writing classes, but in general, they're just helpful. One of the ones I think is the most helpful is the Norton Field Guide to Writing. Now, this is the 4th edition. There has been a 5th edition released. But as long as it has this 2016 MLA update, you're going to be okay. But it is a really handy book. It's got explanatory chapters on different concepts of writing. It's got handbook materials that are quick reference. There's versions with readings, with essays, but that's not as necessary. But it can be a little pricey. So try to find maybe an older one, a used one, a digital version, but I do like this one. But my two favorite books about writing are these next two books. Number one, They Say, I Say, by Gerald Graff and Kathy Birkenstein. This is a book that I discovered in graduate school when I started teaching this course. And if I had my druthers, this would be the textbook. I think this is one of the best books ever written about college writing. It is concise. It is to the point. It's very practical and handy. Has lots of really helpful exercises in it. Templates to help you with the finer mechanics of writing, not just the big theoretical approaches. So I find this book incredibly, incredibly handy. This is the 4th edition. This is the most recent edition that I'm aware of. There are a few different versions. This one is the one with readings, with different essays, but most of the time I think books that contain readings as sample essays have teachers in mind. Like, here's some stuff you can assign for your students to read and pick apart. But that's not as necessary as the actual chapters. Next, we also have Everything's an Argument by Andrea Lunsford and John J. Ruskovich. This, as you can see by the big 7 on it, is the 7th edition. There is also an 8th edition available of this one. I just don't have a copy of it yet. I will have to reach out to Bedford St. Martin's to see if they'll send me a copy of it. But this is also a book that I think is very beneficial in terms of structuring writing. A lot of what we're going to be learning about in 1106 is all about argumentation and persuasion. Now, we're going to talk next week in week 2 about what that actually means. But suffice to say, this is going to be a lot more beneficial to you than some of the more heady theoretical stuff that you would find in other textbooks. I'm not worried about theory. I'm not worried about conceptual stuff. I'm worried about you as first-year students at Virginia Tech learning practical writing skills that can transfer to your other classes, to future employment, because in a lot of ways, for a lot of students, English 1106 is going to be their last writing class. So I have to be as practical-minded as possible. So that's the idea. Now, you will not have to buy any of these books if you don't want to. I find them helpful, but I am going to be giving you PDF copies of some sample chapters. You'll actually find on Pages, if you go to Pages, click on View All Pages. I do have a page here for us that's called Helpful Links for Research. Now, I'll show you, I'll include this in a future lesson that's a little bit more specific to it. But here you're actually going to find links, download links to a lot of these chapters. Here's a few chapters from Everything's an Argument, They Say, I Say, The Elements of Style, stuff from the Norton Field Guide to Writing, etc., etc. I've put it all here in one handy place, but it's going to show up throughout the semester as well. And you can just click on it and say, well, Everything's an Argument, the chapter Everything's an Argument, that's going to be supplementary reading for week 2. I can just click on this, it'll download a PDF, and I can read it in just a moment. My download speed's pretty bad right now because I'm streaming this, but it's there if you want it. So that's just to explain the textbooks for English 1106. Hopefully that's going to clarify some of your questions already. But if you have any other questions, just let me know.